Welcome to Monk's Temple. Let us begin by finding a shared stillness. Wherever you are, whatever noise surrounds you, let it fade into the background for now. Feel the weight of your body being held by the chair or the floor. Notice the subtle rhythm of your breath, coming and going without any effort from you. This simple awareness, this gentle noticing, is where our journey begins. Not with a grand declaration, but with a quiet return to what is already here. There is a power that operates in whispers, not shouts. A strength that reveals itself not in what it conquers, but in what it refuses to engage. In a world that celebrates the loudest voice, the quickest retort, the most dramatic reaction, we have forgotten a more ancient, more profound truth. True authority doesn't command attention, it cultivates a depth that attention naturally settles into, like a stone finding its rest at the bottom of a clear pond. The wisdom traditions of Buddhism offer us a radical redefinition of power. It teaches that our greatest battles are not with the world outside, but with the reflexes inside. That the most significant victory is not over another person, but over our own compulsive need to respond, to defend, to justify our existence with every breath. This is the path of silent power, not the silence of emptiness, but the profound, resonant silence of a mind that is full, aware, and unshaken. Let me share a story with you. In a valley between two mountains, there were two springs. The first spring was boisterous and loud. It gushed from the rocks with great force, bubbling and chattering constantly over the stones. Travelers could hear it from far away. They would come, drink its water, and often comment on its energetic sound. The second spring was different. It did not gush. It seeped quietly from a deep fissure in an ancient rock, forming a small, crystal-clear pool that was perfectly still and silent. Its water was so clear you could see every pebble at the bottom. Fewer travelers stopped here, as it did not announce itself. But those who did found the water cooler, sweeter, and more deeply refreshing. Over centuries, a curious thing happened. The loud spring, with its constant agitation against the stones, began to change its course. The very force of its reaction wore away its own bed, redirecting its flow. Some years it flooded, other years it nearly ran dry. The silent spring, however, remained constant. Its pool never overflowed, never diminished. It was fed from such a deep, still source that seasons of drought and seasons of rain barely changed its level. It had a quiet, unwavering abundance. We are often taught to be like the first spring, to make noise, to assert, to prove our presence through visible reaction. But Buddhism guides us toward the wisdom of the second. Our reactive minds are like that chattering, forceful stream, wearing ourselves out, changing course with every obstacle, becoming slaves to our own output. The silent, non-reactive mind is the deep, still pool. It is fed from sources of understanding so profound that the surface weather of insult, praise, conflict, and chaos cannot disturb its essential depth or clarity. Its power is in its unwavering presence, not in its noisy performance. If this metaphor of the two springs calls to something within you, consider subscribing to Monk's Temple. It is an invitation to return to this deep pool of understanding, whenever you need to remember where your true refreshment lies. Now, let us explore what it means to move from the noisy stream to the silent pool. Much of our suffering arises not from the first arrow, the event, the word, the slight, but from the second, third, and fourth arrows we fire at ourselves in reaction. The Buddha taught this clearly. The first arrow is life, it is the contact with something unpleasant. The subsequent arrows are our own making, the rage, the rumination, the story of injustice, the bitter replaying of the tape. Non-reaction is the practice of catching the quiver before we can shoot that second arrow. It is learning to feel the sting of the first, without adding a symphony of self-created agony on top of it. Think of your awareness as a vast, open sky. Thoughts, emotions, and external events are like weather. A storm cloud of anger may blow in. A cold front of anxiety. A sunny spell of joy. The reactive mind forgets it is the sky. It identifies completely with the weather. I am angry, it declares, as if the storm cloud and the sky were one and the same. In that identification, you become the turbulence. You are tossed, battered, and believe the storm is all there is. The practice rooted in Buddhist mindfulness is the gradual, gentle remembrance: I am not the storm. I am the sky that holds the storm. The sky does not fight the cloud. It does not argue with the lightning. It does not try to push the weather away. It provides the infinite, silent space in which all weather forms, plays out, and dissolves. Your non-reaction is this shift in identity, from the temporary, passing weather of emotion to the eternal, spacious awareness that witnesses it. This is not detachment in the cold sense. It is the ultimate intimacy. You are so close to the experience that you are the very space that contains it, not the contracted fragment lost within it. I learned this not from a book first, but from watching an old stonecutter at work. He was shaping a gargoyle for a cathedral restoration. His chisel would strike the granite, and the stone would let out a sharp, high ping with each blow. The apprentice next to him, working on a softer sandstone, had a different sound, a dull, softer thud. The master was not listening to the sound of his own strikes. He was listening to the ring of the stone after the strike. The ping of the granite told him its density, its integrity, where a hidden fault line might be. The apprentice heard only the impact, the master heard the stone's reply. The stone's true nature was revealed not in the force applied to it, but in the resonant tone it gave back after the force had landed. We are so often like the apprentice, focused only on the thud of the provocation, the insult, the demand, the criticism. We react to the impact. But what if we could learn to listen like the master? To listen not to the initial blow, but to the resonant ring within ourselves after the blow. What does that internal resonance tell us? Does it ring with the hollow sound of insecurity? The sharp ping of wounded pride? The dull thud of an old, familiar hurt? Non-reaction creates the silence necessary to hear that ring. And in hearing it, we understand ourselves, and the situation, infinitely better. We respond not to the hammer, but from a deep understanding of the material of our own being. This leads us to a cornerstone of this quiet power, the dismantling of the echo chamber. When we react instantly, we create an echo. We throw a sound, an angry word, a defensive justification, into the canyon of the conflict. And then we have to listen to it bounce back and forth, growing distorted with each return. Soon, we are no longer dealing with the original event, but with the haunting, amplified echoes of our own reaction. We are in a dialogue with our own ghosts. The silent mind refuses to enter the echo chamber. It stands outside the canyon. It lets the other person's shout go in and fade away into silence, unanswered. There is no secondary sound to bounce back, so the drama dies in one iteration. This silence is not a vacuum. It is a fertile void. Into that void, something new can emerge, perhaps clarity, perhaps the other person's own reflection, perhaps simply the peaceful absence of a fight that never needed to happen. Buddhist teachings on right speech are deeply connected to this. Often, the most right speech is the conscious, compassionate choice to withhold speech until the echoes have died down and what remains is truth, not noise. Imagine a pond at dawn, perfectly still. A single duck lands on it, creating ripples that expand to the far shore. If you then throw a pebble, the ripples cross and clash, creating a complex, chaotic pattern. The still water becomes illegible. Our minds are that pond. An event is the duck landing, ripples naturally arise. A reaction is you, frantically throwing pebbles of thought, blame, and story into the water while the initial ripples are still moving. You create chaos where there was a simple, observable pattern. Non-reaction is the discipline to watch the duck's ripples move all the way to the shore, to let the water settle back to stillness, before you decide if any action is needed. In that stillness, you can see everything clearly, the duck, the ripples, the shape of the pond itself. From that clarity, any action you take, whether to speak, to move, to remain, will be precise, purposeful, and powerful. This is the foundation we are building. A return to the deep spring. A remembrance that we are the sky, not the storm. A tuning of the ear to the resonant ring within, not just the hammer's blow. A conscious step outside the echo chamber. A patient allowing of the waters to settle. From this foundation, a different kind of life becomes possible. One governed not by chaotic reaction, but by silent, sovereign response. Let's continue. Settle back into your awareness. Feel the breath. Feel the quiet support beneath you. We've begun to explore the nature of silent power, the deep spring, the sky holding the weather, listening for the ring within. Now, let's delve into what this practice protects us from, and more importantly, what it cultivates within us. For non-reaction is not merely a shield. It is an alchemical process that transforms the base metal of raw experience into the gold of wisdom. One of the most pervasive illusions we must see through is the belief that by reacting, we are doing something. That our anger is a force for change, our anxiety is a form of preparedness, our vocal defense is a protection of our territory. But often, what we are actually doing is handing over the keys to our inner kingdom. Every unchecked reaction is a tiny rebellion within your own mind, a coup where the impulsive, fear-based ego seizes the throne from the wise, observing awareness. You may feel powerful in the heat of the moment, but you have just been overthrown by a usurper. Buddhist psychology maps this process with great precision. A sense object contacts the mind, a critical word is heard. Instantly, there is a feeling, vedana, unpleasant. Then, if mindfulness is absent, arises tanha, craving. Craving for this unpleasant feeling to cease. This craving is the reactor, the usurper. It demands immediate action to abolish the discomfort. It shouts, fight back. Explain. Make them stop. Make this feeling go away. This is the moment of hijacking. When you obey this shout, you are no longer in charge. The craving is. Non-reaction is the royal guard of mindfulness standing firm at the gates. It is the moment you feel the craving arise, that urgent, visceral push to do something. And you simply say, I see you. You acknowledge the usurper's presence without handing it the scepter. You feel the unpleasant feeling fully, without following the craving's command to make it stop at any cost. In that pause, the craving, meeting no resistance and receiving no obedience, loses its momentum. It fades. And the rightful ruler, your calm, discerning awareness, remains on the throne. The kingdom is at peace, not because the invader was destroyed in battle, but because it was never granted entry. I remember visiting a very old library, home to ancient, fragile manuscripts. The reading room had a strict rule: no pens, only pencils. A scholar next to me, deep in his work, accidentally brought a fountain pen. As he uncapped it, a librarian appeared not with a reprimand, but with a simple, silent gesture. She placed a soft cloth on the priceless page he was about to mark, and gently slid a sharpened pencil beside his hand. She did not react to the violation. She responded to the protection of what was precious. Her calm, precise action neutralized the potential for disaster without a single word of conflict. It was a masterpiece of non-reactive guardianship. Your inner peace, your clarity, your energy, these are your priceless manuscripts. A reactive mind spills ink on them daily with anger, resentment, and worry. The practice of non-reaction is that librarian within you. It doesn't scream at you for being careless. It simply, gently, places the cloth of mindfulness over your precious resources and offers the pencil of a wise response. It protects what is sacred within you from your own corrosive reactions. This brings us to a powerful metaphor: the difference between a maze and a labyrinth. A maze is a puzzle designed to confuse. It has dead ends, false turns, and its purpose is to lose you. It is a game of reaction: you hit a wall, you turn, you hit another, you panic. A labyrinth, in the ancient tradition, has only one path. It winds and turns, sometimes seeming to lead away from the center, but it is universal. There are no choices, no dead ends. If you simply keep walking, you will inevitably reach the center. Most of our reactive suffering occurs because we believe we are in a maze. Someone says something hurtful, a wall appears. We react with a hurtful retort, a turn. They react back, another wall. We are lost in a confusing, painful puzzle of action and reaction, each turn creating more complexity. Non-reaction is the realization that you are actually in a labyrinth. The hurtful word is not a wall, it is merely a turn in the path. If you do not react, if you simply keep walking the path of your own centered awareness, you continue moving. You are not stopped by the turn. You follow it, and it leads you, inevitably, through and out of the conflict, toward your own center. The other person may be shouting at you from what they believe is a maze, throwing up walls and challenges. But you, by refusing to build walls in return, reveal the single, winding path through it all. Your silence is not you being lost for words. It is you knowing the way home. This is deeply connected to the Buddhist principle of pratitya samutpada, dependent origination. Everything arises based on causes and conditions. A reaction is a new cause, planting a seed for a future condition of more conflict. Non-reaction is the conscious refusal to plant that seed. You let the causal chain of provocation end with you. You absorb the energy without transforming it into a new cause for suffering. You become a terminator of cycles, not a perpetuator. I once watched a master weaver repair a priceless tapestry. A section had been damaged, the thread snapped and tangled. A novice would have grabbed at the broken threads, trying to reknot them in a panic, likely making the snarl worse. The master did something else. She first stilled her hands. Then, with infinite patience, she used a fine needle not to pull, but to gently loosen the tangled cluster. She created space around each broken end. Only when each thread was free, lying slack and separate, did she begin the meticulous work of reweaving. Her first and most crucial action was not to fix, but to create stillness and space so that fixing became possible. Our reactive minds are that tangled snarl. An event snaps our composure, and we immediately grab at the broken threads of our emotions, pulling and yanking, making the internal snarl tighter, more painful, more complex. Non-reaction is the master weaver's first move. It is the conscious decision to create stillness and space. To not pull. To not add tension. To simply observe the tangle with compassion until the threads of our feelings naturally loosen, separate, and become workable again. From that calm space, the careful reweaving of understanding and response can begin. This practice builds what I call invisible architecture. When you react, you build structures everyone can see. Walls of resentment, towers of argument, fragile bridges of explanation that require constant repair. This architecture is exhausting to maintain and defines your landscape with defensiveness. Non-reaction builds its architecture underground, in the dark, silent soil of your being. It grows deep taproots of stability. It forms a bedrock of unshakable values. It establishes a water table of inner peace that nourishes you from below. This architecture is invisible to the outside world. No one sees the roots or the bedrock. But they feel the stability of the tree that grows from it. They sense the solidity of the ground you stand on. They cannot topple what they cannot see, and they cannot attack a foundation that lies beneath the surface of your words. The silent power we are exploring is this invisible architecture. It is the work done in the quiet, away from the drama. It is the cultivation of a center so solid that the surface disturbances, the criticisms, the slights, the daily provocations, are revealed for what they are, whether on the mountain, unable to move the earth beneath. Your reactions are the surface buildings that the storm can damage. Your non-reactive center is the mountain itself. The storm's power is an illusion when faced with such immovable depth. This path is a re-education of the nervous system, a retraining of the heart. It moves us from being a fortress under constant siege to being a sanctuary that is simply at peace. The gates are not locked in fear, they are open, because there is nothing inside that needs protection from a passing storm. All that is valuable is already part of the deep, still earth. Let us go deeper. There is a place within you that has never been disturbed. A quiet center that has watched every triumph and every sorrow come and go, like tides on a shore, leaving the essential bedrock unchanged. Our work now is not to create this place, but to remember it. To turn our attention inward, away from the crashing waves of reaction, and listen for its constant, silent hum. A common fear arises when we speak of non-reaction, the fear of becoming passive, of being walked over, of losing our voice. This is a critical misunderstanding. The silence we cultivate is not the silence of a void, it is the silence of a deep, listening presence. It is the difference between a dry riverbed, empty, brittle, lifeless, and the deep, still pool in the woods that reflects the entire forest perfectly. One is absence. The other is profound, receptive fullness. Buddhist meditation practices, such as zazen or vipassana, are not trainings in becoming blank. They are trainings in becoming vividly, alertly present. You sit not to empty the mind, but to observe its fullness with non-attachment. You watch the thought of anger arise. You feel the sensation of heat in the chest. The untrained mind screams, "I am angry," and leaps into action. The trained mind notes, "Ah, anger is here." It feels the heat. It watches the accompanying story, "This is unfair, they are wrong." But it does not fuse with the anger. It holds the anger in the vast space of awareness, like holding a burning ember in your open palm. If you clutch it, you are burned. If you drop it, you may start a fire. But if you simply hold it, openly, steadily, without grasping or rejecting, it will glow, radiate its heat, and then transform, cooling to ash on your skin. Non-reaction is this open-palmed holding of our own difficult energies. I learned about this kind of holding from a glassblower. He was explaining why some pieces crack in the annealing oven, the slow cooling process. The problem, he said, is rarely the heat of the furnace. It is the speed of the cooling. If the glass cools too quickly, the outer surface contracts and hardens while the inner core is still molten and expanding. The tension between the two becomes too great, and crack. He pointed to his large, slow-cooling oven. In here, the temperature drops so gradually that the entire piece, surface and core, cool in harmony. The stresses equalize. The piece becomes not just solid, but stable. It can withstand use. Our reactive mind is that rapid, dramatic cooling. A provocation heats us to a molten state. Then, in a panic to regain control, we force a cooling, we shut down, we stonewall, we deliver a cold, hard retort. This creates terrible internal stress, a hardened exterior hiding a still seething core. We are left brittle, prone to cracking under pressure. Non-reaction is the annealing oven of awareness. It allows the heat of the emotion to be fully felt, but then lets it cool in the gentle, steady atmosphere of mindful observation. The surface and the core come to peace together. The result is not fragility, but a resilient strength that can bear weight without shattering. This leads us to a profound liberation, freedom from the need to be understood. So much of our reactive energy is spent in a desperate, often futile, campaign to make others see our point, validate our pain, acknowledge our rightness. We polish our arguments like gems, hoping their brilliance will finally illuminate us in the eyes of another. It is an exhausting quest, for we are handing our sense of worth to an external jury that is often blindfolded by its own perspectives. The silent power of non-reaction withdraws this case from the court of others' opinions. It is the inward realization, my clarity does not depend on your acknowledgement. This is not arrogance. It is the quiet confidence of a tree that does not need the passing bird to confirm it is a tree. The tree simply is. Its existence is its own validation. When you stop reacting to prove or defend your reality, you step into this tree-like sovereignty. People may call you an oak or a weed, it does not change your essential nature or the depth of your roots. Your energy, once spent on persuading the world, now nourishes your own growth. There is a story of an ancient bell in a temple that had fallen silent for generations. People said it was cracked, its voice lost forever. A young monk, instead of trying to recast or repair the bell, did something different. He began to sit beside it every day, not striking it, but simply cleaning the moss from its surface, feeling the cool metal with his hands. One evening, during a deep meditation, the temple was utterly silent. A large fruit fell from a tree in the courtyard and struck the earth with a deep thump. From the bell, of its own accord, came a soft, pure, resonant hum, a sound so clear it seemed to come from the center of the earth. The bell was not broken. It was waiting for the right kind of vibration, not the harsh strike of a clapper, but the profound resonance of a true, deep sound, to awaken its own voice. You are not broken because you do not clang loudly in every conflict. Your true voice is not the sharp retort, but the deep, resonant hum that arises from your core when you are struck by the truth of a situation, not by the petty provocation. Non-reaction clears away the moss of ego and noise, allowing you to become so still, so attuned, that when the right moment comes, when speech is truly needed, not just wanted, your response will have that pure, resonant quality that touches something deep in others, far beyond the level of argument. This practice also rewrites our relationship with time. Reaction lives in a frantic, compressed time. It feels urgent, immediate, as if the world will end if we do not respond right now. This is the tyranny of the perceived emergency. Non-reaction operates in what we might call deep time. It understands that most emergencies are illusions. It has the patience of geology. A mountain does not panic when a river cuts a new canyon, it understands the process will take millennia. By not reacting, you step out of the frantic, small time of the ego and into the spacious, deep time of awareness. You realize you have the luxury of a breath, an hour, a day. In that spaciousness, solutions appear that were invisible in the panic, and many problems simply evaporate, having only ever existed as fuel for your own reactive fire. So we are learning to hold emotions without being burned, like the glassblower. We are learning to cool our reactions slowly, in the annealing oven of awareness. We are withdrawing our need for external validation, like the tree that simply grows. We are clearing the moss to become a bell that resonates only with truth. And we are stepping into deep time, where urgency dissolves. This is the cultivation of the inner sanctuary. Let's continue to build this sanctuary of quiet strength. To do so, we must become wise gatekeepers. The most persistent threats to our peace are not always external events, but the internal habits we have practiced for a lifetime, and the invisible pressures of the world's expectations. These are the subtle winds that can, over time, erode even the strongest cliffs. First, let's consider the habit of mental commentary. This is the invisible background noise of the reactive mind. It is the constant narrator in your head, interpreting, judging, and spinning stories about everything that happens. He looked at me that way because he doesn't respect me. She's late because she's inconsiderate. This delay is ruining my entire day. This commentary is not reality, it is a layer of interpretation painted over reality. And we react not to the event itself, but to our painted, dramatized version of it. It is like being terrorized by shadows on the wall of a cave, believing them to be monsters. Buddhist mindfulness practice invites us to see the paintbrush in our own hand. Non-reaction, in this internal realm, is the practice of pausing the commentary. It is noticing the thought, he disrespected me, and silently adding, is a thought. This tiny gap of awareness dissolves the thought's authority. It becomes a passing cloud in your mental sky, not a command to mobilize your emotional army. You begin to separate the raw data of experience, a facial expression, a tardy arrival, a traffic jam, from the elaborate, often painful, story your mind instantly generates about it. Your peace begins the moment you realize you are the author of the story, not a helpless character trapped within it. I recall an old railway signal box I visited, now a museum. The signalman's job was not to stop trains with his bare hands, but to understand a complex system of levers and signals. When a train was coming, he didn't run onto the tracks and shout. He simply moved a specific lever in his booth, which changed a signal a mile down the track. The train driver, seeing the signal, would adjust his own controls. The system worked through clear, indirect communication, not direct, physical confrontation. Your reactive mind is like a frantic person running onto the tracks, trying to stop the train of events with sheer force. Your non-reactive awareness is the signalman. It doesn't engage with the train directly. It operates the levers of your own attention and intention from a place of calm understanding. You change your internal signal, from panic to observation, from blame to curiosity, and the entire train of the interaction changes course, long before a collision can occur. You manage the system, you don't fight the momentum. This connects to a crucial Buddhist concept, sankhara, or mental formations. These are the conditioned habits, the knee-jerk patterns of thought and emotion that arise automatically. Every time you react in a familiar way, getting defensive when criticized, feeling anxious when plans change, you are reinforcing a sankhara, making that neural pathway a little deeper, a little more automatic. Non-reaction is the practice of not pouring water down that familiar groove. You let the water of your attention pool on level ground instead, allowing new, more flexible pathways to form. You are not a prisoner of your past reactions, you are, in each mindful moment, the sculptor of your future mind. One of the heaviest expectations we carry is the demand for closure. We believe that for peace to return, a situation must be resolved, an apology must be given, a misunderstanding must be cleared up. This demand keeps us hooked, waiting for external resolution, forever in a state of reactive suspension. The silent power of non-reaction offers a shocking alternative. You can find closure within yourself, regardless of the external outcome. Imagine a book with a terrible, unsatisfying ending. You could spend years writing angry letters to the author, demanding a rewrite. Or, you could simply close the book. Place it back on the shelf. Your experience of the story is complete, not because the plot was resolved to your liking, but because you have chosen to stop reading, to stop engaging with its narrative. Non-reaction is how you close the book on conflicts that are not yours to resolve, on arguments that lead in circles, on people who refuse to understand. You grant yourself closure by withdrawing the energy of your engagement. The story may continue out there, but on your inner shelf, it is marked finished. This is an act of supreme self-authority. I witnessed this in an old gardener dealing with a tree that was constantly dropping rotten fruit, attracting pests and creating a mess. His neighbors urged him to cut it down. Instead, he simply stopped picking up the fruit. He stopped reacting to the mess. He let the fruit fall and rot where it lay. Within a season, something remarkable happened. The rotting fruit nourished the soil. Insects broke it down. Birds came to eat the insects. The tree itself, no longer stressed by his constant cleaning and worry, grew healthier. And the following year, it bore sweet, clean fruit. By not reacting to the problem, he had allowed the natural system to find its own balance and healing. How often do we desperately try to clean up every interpersonal mess, every uncomfortable feeling, immediately. Our reactive cleaning often stresses the entire system, our own nervous system. Non-reaction is the courage to let the rotten fruit of a difficult situation lie. To allow natural processes, time, silence, the other person's own reflection, to decompose the issue and transform it into something that can eventually nourish new growth. You don't always have to pick up the mess. Sometimes, you can just stop being the janitor. Finally, we must face the expectation of consistency. The world loves a predictable person. It says, be strong, and expects you to always be a rock. It says, be kind, and expects you to never have a boundary. When you begin the practice of non-reaction, you become less predictable. You may be quiet when they expect an argument. You may walk away when they expect a fight. This unnerves people. They may accuse you of changing, of being cold, of not being yourself. This is where your silent power stands firm. You are not here to be a predictable character in someone else's script. You are a conscious being, writing your response fresh in each moment, based on wisdom, not habit. Your consistency is not in your predictable reactions, but in your unwavering commitment to your own center. Let them be unnerved. Their discomfort is the sound of their own expectations crumbling, not a signal that you are wrong. As the Buddha taught, be an island unto yourself. Your stability is internal, not dependent on maintaining a fixed, external persona for the comfort of others. So we learn to pause the internal commentary. We become signal men, not track runners. We stop reinforcing old mental grooves. We grant ourselves inner closure. We stop being janitors for every mess. And we embrace the beautiful, liberating unpredictability of a free consciousness. This is how we protect the sanctuary. Would you like to move forward and explore the ultimate fruits of this practice? How living from silent power transforms your relationship with life itself. We have prepared the ground, built the sanctuary, and learned to guard its gates. Now, let us explore what blooms in this quiet inner space. What is the experience of a life increasingly free from the tyranny of reaction? It is not a life of bland neutrality, but one of vivid, authentic connection and effortless effectiveness. The energy once spent on internal civil war becomes available for creation, compassion, and a profound sense of being at home in the flow of life. The first and most beautiful fruit is the return of genuine curiosity. When you are not busy defending a position, proving a point, or guarding an image, your mind becomes free to simply wonder. A critical comment is no longer just an attack, it becomes a curious artifact. What pain or fear might be behind that? What can I learn about how I am perceived? This is not intellectual detachment, it is heartfelt inquiry. You engage with the world from a place of interest, not anxiety. Conversations become explorations, not debates. Conflicts become puzzles to understand, not wars to win. The defensive walls come down, and in their place grows a welcoming, open garden where understanding can take root. Buddhism places great value on this beginner's mind, Shoshin. It is the mind that is open, eager, and free of the preconceptions that come with expertise or a fixed self-view. The reactive mind is an expert mind, it knows instantly what everything means and what must be done. The non-reactive mind is the eternal beginner, meeting each moment with fresh eyes, willing to be surprised, willing to learn. From this place, your interactions lose their weary, repetitive quality and become alive with possibility. I think of a master tea ceremony practitioner. Every movement is precise, yet utterly fluid. She is not reacting to the kettle, the cup, or the guest. She is in a deep, harmonious dialogue with the entire situation. If a guest is agitated, her movements become slower, more grounding. If the room is cold, she adjusts the heat. She responds to the reality of the moment, not from a script, but from a deep, silent attunement. Her power is in her flawless adaptability, her perfect responsiveness. She is not imposing her will, she is collaborating with the conditions to create an experience of beauty and peace. Your life can become like this ceremony when reaction subsides. You are no longer trying to force the situation to match your plan. You are reading the subtle cues, within yourself and around you, and moving in harmony with them. Your actions become both effortless and profoundly effective. This leads to a natural and authentic compassion. Often, what we call compassion is reactive sympathy, a knee-jerk emotional resonance with another's pain that can easily turn into shared distress or a burdensome sense of responsibility to fix it. The compassion that arises from a silent center is different. It is spacious. It can hold another's suffering without being drowned by it. It sees the pain clearly, but it also sees the wholeness beyond the pain. It allows you to be present with a crying friend without needing them to stop crying to make you feel better. Your calm becomes a container for their storm, and in that safe container, healing can begin. This is the compassion of the Bodhisattva. The one who remains in the world of suffering but is not burned by its fires, because their heart rests in the cool, clear space of wisdom. There is a story of an ancient, giant sequoia tree that withstood a catastrophic forest fire. While the fire raged around it, the tree did not fight. Its bark, evolved over millennia, was fire-resistant. The intense heat actually caused its cones to open, releasing seeds onto the newly cleared, nutrient-rich forest floor. The tree's silent, resilient presence in the face of destruction became the very source of the forest's renewal. When you are rooted in non-reactive awareness, you develop a kind of psychological fire-resistant bark. The emotional fires of others, their anger, their drama, their panic, can rage around you, but they cannot ignite your inner core. And more than that, your steady, calm presence in the midst of their fire can create the conditions for something new to grow. Your silence isn't indifference, it is the fertile ash from which their own understanding might eventually sprout. A second profound fruit is the emergence of what I call right timing. The reactive mind is always early or late. It jumps in too soon with an opinion, or too late with an apology. It lives in the imagined future of worry or the regretted past. The silent mind exists in the eternal present, and from that place, it perceives the natural rhythm of things. It knows when to speak and when to wait. It senses when action is needed and when stillness is the action. This is not magical intuition, it is the clarity that comes when the water of your mind is still, and you can see all the way to the bottom. You perceive the currents, the obstacles, the openings. This is mirrored in the Buddhist concept of sammakamanta, right action. Right action is not a rulebook. It is action that springs from a mind that is settled, clear, and free from greed, hatred, and delusion. When you are not reacting from anger, hatred, from a need to possess an outcome, greed, or from a misunderstanding of the situation, delusion, your actions naturally align with wisdom. They become right for the moment, leaving a wake of harmony, not chaos. Finally, we come to the ultimate transformation, the dissolution of the watcher itself. We began by learning to watch our reactions. To be the sky watching the weather. This is a necessary stage. But as the practice deepens, a subtle shift occurs. The sense of a separate, you, who is watching the mind starts to soften. The duality between the observer and the observed begins to blur. You are not the sky watching the storm, you are the seamless totality of sky and storm. The feeling is less of, I am being calm, and more of, calm is happening. There is no manager, no gatekeeper, just the natural, intelligent flow of life expressing itself through you, unobstructed by a reactive self. This is the taste of what Buddhism points to with terms like sunyata, emptiness, or nirvana. It is not annihilation, but the falling away of the illusory separate self that was always struggling, defending, and reacting. What remains is peace, not as an achievement, but as your fundamental nature, finally recognized. Action flows from this peace, clean and clear, like water from a spring. It is the end of seeking, because you are living from the place you were always seeking. So the journey of silent power leads us full circle. From the noisy stream of reaction, we find the deep, still pool. We cultivate it, protect it, and finally, we realize we are not just the pool, but the entire forest, the sky, the earth, the seamless, silent, powerful whole. The victory is complete not when you defeat others in silence, but when you discover there was never a separate, you, that needed to fight in the first place. This is our exploration at Monk's Temple. Not a battle to win, but a remembrance of what you have always been. A return to the silent power that was never lost, only forgotten beneath the noise of a lifetime of reactions. Thank you for sharing this journey into quiet strength. May the peace you discover within become a light you carry effortlessly into your world. May your silence be deep, your presence be steady, and your heart be forever free from the need to fight the winds that pass. Welcome back. Let's settle into the final integration of this journey into silent power. If you've been with me through these explorations, you've traveled from the noisy stream to the deep pool, from identifying with the storm to remembering you are the sky. Now, we bring it all home. How does this silent power feel in the hands, in the heart, in the quiet moments of an ordinary day? It is time to move from understanding to embodiment, from concept to lived truth. There is a profound simplicity waiting at the end of this path. It's the simplicity of a tree in winter. Its leaves, its showy displays of spring and summer, have fallen away. What remains is the essential architecture, the strong trunk, the resilient branches reaching into the sky. Stripped bare, it reveals a stark, elegant strength. It is no longer busy being a tree, it simply is treeness itself. Your journey toward non-reaction is an autumn within the soul, a letting go of the 10,000 leaves of opinions, defenses, and emotional performances. What remains is your essential architecture, your integrity, your awareness, your innate peace. This bare-branched state is not impoverished, it is potent, clear, and unburdened. A common question arises here: if I don't react, won't people think they can treat me any way they want? This fear confuses reaction with response, and silence with submission. Let's be clear, a response chosen from clarity is 1,000 times more powerful than a reaction born of chaos. Your silent power does not make you a target, it makes you a mystery, and mystery commands a respect that familiarity never can. When you are reactive, people believe they know your buttons, they have your map. When you are silent and centered, you become an unmapped territory. People may test the borders, but they do so cautiously, for they no longer know what lies within. Your silence is not an open door, it is a deep moat around a castle whose gates open only to wisdom. I remember watching a master carpenter fit a complex joint. He didn't force the pieces. He didn't hammer angrily at a misfit. He would hold the wood, feel its grain, examine the cut from every angle. Often, he would simply set it down and walk away for a moment. In that space, his mind would clear. Upon returning, he would see the tiny imperfection, a shave of wood needed here, a slight angle adjustment there. The correction was minimal, precise, and effortless. His power was in his patience and his perception, not in his force. Your relationships and challenges are like that joint. Forcing them with emotional reactions rarely creates a true fit. Walking away into your own silent center, even for a mental moment, allows the space for you to see the precise, minimal adjustment needed, a clear word, a firm boundary, a compassionate release, that resolves the issue without violence to the material, which is the relationship itself. This is the essence of the Buddhist teaching on ahimsa, non-harming. Non-reaction is often the highest form of ahimsa you can practice toward yourself and others. You cease the violence of the angry retort, the harsh judgment, the internal war. You create a ceasefire in your own mind. From that ceasefire, all other peace becomes possible. Now, let's address the practical cultivation. How do you live this? First, establish a daily practice of returning. This isn't necessarily an hour of meditation, though that is wonderful. It is the micro-practice of the sacred pause. Before answering the phone, take one conscious breath. Before sending the email, feel your feet on the floor. When you feel the heat of anger rising, say to yourself, "Sensation is here." These are tiny acts of rebellion against the autopilot of reaction. They are how you retrain the nervous system, wire by wire. Second, become a connoisseur of your own triggers. Don't judge them. Study them with gentle curiosity. When my authority is questioned, my stomach tightens and my mind races to list my accomplishments. Interesting. This is scientific observation of your inner ecosystem. When you know the trigger's signature, you see it coming. And seeing it coming is half the battle won. You are no longer ambushed by your own conditioning. Third, practice disidentification. When a strong emotion hits, experiment with saying, "There is anger," instead of, "I am angry." There is fear, instead of, "I am afraid." This linguistic shift, practiced internally, creates psychological space. It reminds you that these are passing states, not your eternal identity. You are the canvas, not the paint. Fourth, invest in the long-term return. Every time you choose not to engage in a futile argument, you are making a deposit in your peace account. Every time you let a cutting remark pass without a counterstrike, you are strengthening your emotional immune system. The compounding interest on these deposits is a life of remarkable, unshakable serenity. You are building wealth that no one can tax and no market crash can diminish. I will leave you with one final, original story. In a museum of natural history, there was two exhibits side by side. One was a model of a lightning strike, a brilliant, jagged, terrifying bolt of pure energy frozen in acrylic. Visitors were awed by its dramatic power. The other was a simple, polished cross-section of an ancient redwood tree. In its rings, you could see tiny, dark scars. The fossilized marks of lightning strikes from centuries past. Next to each scar, the tree's growth rings were incredibly tight for a period, then they resumed their normal, expansive pattern. The placard read, "The tree did not fight the lightning. It absorbed it, sealed it off, and grew around it." The scar became part of its strength, a record of a storm it outlived. The lightning is the provocation, the crisis, the painful word. The reactive mind is the dramatic, jagged bolt. Impressive for a second, but destructive and gone. The silent, non-reactive mind is the redwood. It accepts the strike. It feels the burn. But then, with the profound, patient intelligence of life itself, it absorbs the experience. It seals it in the resin of awareness. It grows new layers of understanding around it. The scar remains, but it is not a wound, it is a testament to resilience, a ring in the story of your growth that made you wider, stronger, more intricate. This is your silent power. You are not here to be lightning. You are here to be the tree. To grow a life so vast, so deeply rooted in your own true nature, that the storms of this world become mere notations in the grand text of your being. They leave marks, but they do not define the story. The story is written by the steady, silent, inevitable expansion of your rings, year after year, toward the sun. Thank you for walking this path of the redwood with Monk's Temple. May you grow in silence, in strength, and in peace. May your roots find the deep water of truth, and may your branches offer shelter to all who seek respite from the storm. The journey does not end here, it simply becomes the ground from which you grow.